Gotta call myself out. Uh, yes, so my old employer is streaming it. Bernie is streaming it, and all that. I won't be streaming it because I don't know how to do that and show it to you. What kind of fool would sign over their bank account to a TYT affiliate? I'm not a TYT affiliate. Are you crazy? Me and TYT, we've separated. Let's put it that. I have nothing to do with TYT anymore. And I am nobody's affiliate because I, along with the reporters that will be joining me when we launch this company, we are going to create a media revolution, and we are going to do it with you. It's going to be very different than TYT, I can tell you that. Patreon.com/Jordan Sheridan Reports. But I want to tell you some more stories about the oligarchy. So when I was on the road for TYT, I was in Oregon for the primary. And every time I went to a different state for a primary, I tried to cover local issues. So I went to a outdoor houseless village. I call it houseless. I first called it homeless, and they were very specific. No, we're not homeless. We're houseless. Home is where the heart is. So if you say someone's homeless, you're essentially saying they're without a heart. We don't want to say that. So I call it houseless. So there was this big outdoor houseless city right in downtown Portland, near Portland's Chinatown. And I mean, probably like 30 to 40 tents, big village. And I went there because I wanted to show the audience how in these gentrified cities like Portland, San Francisco, Seattle, Charleston, South Carolina, many other areas, that it's being gentrified to the point where people are houseless, what I just said. I got into the houseless community. I was talking to the secretary, and I said, is there anybody here to interview? And he brought me back literally empty at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Sunny day out. Totally empty. So I said, where are your inhabitants? Because this wasn't like a place where like people come for a day and then they go, like some shelters around the country. This was a place where people stay throughout the year. He said they're at work. They all have part-time or full-time jobs. I didn't get it. I'm like, what do you mean? These are like full-time jobs, but they live outdoor at a houseless tent city? So have you seen how expensive it is to live in Portland? The working poor, there are working people in this country that work full-time jobs that cannot afford even the crappiest of roofs over their head. Can you imagine that? If you worked 40 hours a week and then had to go sleep in a tent outdoors? And I interviewed somebody there who was super, super powerful. His name was Gary. He was wearing a tie-dye shirt. He was living out of his car. And I asked him, what do you think about the fact that, you're called the taker? You're one of the takers, Paul Ryan says. And even Democrats sometimes vilify the working poor. I mean, it was Bill Clinton who passed welfare reform. And he said, we're not the one out here on the front lines of the war on poverty that sucked up as much of the wealth in this country with no regard to the rest of the country. We're not the ones who rigged the rules and rigged the system. We're not the ones who bought off the politicians. We're not the ones creating endless war. So there are working people in this country who cannot afford to have a roof over their head. There are working people in this country who cannot afford the medications they need to function, or in some cases live. Working people in this country that cannot afford to feed their kids multiple meals a day. And that is all a manifestation of the oligarchy. So part of my public service to you is I watch corporate media so you don't have to. It's important to know your enemy. I don't mean enemy. We're not violent. We're not starting a war with anyone from corporate media. But Nonviolent, I mean. But I watched Morning Joe this morning. They're literally talking about that we are now in the Cold War 2.0. They're literally talking about that this is worse than the Cold War. They're talking about we don't know if our institutions can survive Donald Trump. Zero on the water poisoning erupting all over this country. Zero on how many people are unemployed or underemployed in this country. Zero under the increase, about the increase in the houseless in this country. Zero about the consumers defrauded by Wells Fargo and other banks. Zero about the people who in this chat are talking about working 2 to 3 jobs. There is, as Bernie says, and he will be talking about tonight in his live stream, there is zero coverage of reality. There is zero coverage about the fact that Amazon is essentially bankrupting a lot of small business around this country. And I'm a hypocrite too, because I order things from Amazon sometimes. We're not, as progressives, I'm not against companies making money, but where does it end? Where does it end? Where companies get to make as much money as humanly possible to the point where no other company could even exist. And by the way, did you know Amazon literally wants to put tracking devices like embedded in their workers' skins so they know what they're doing and their productivity? What are we, sheep? Nancy just said many of Amazon's employees are on food stamps. Nancy, did you see that segment on CNN? Because I didn't. Did you see a New York Times investigation on that? No. Henderline says they're going to keep fracking because they want money. Water is poison, water shortage worldwide, famine due to drought, and on and on. Hey, Henderline, have you seen any reporting on the fact that these hedge funds around the country, particularly in New York, hedge fund financial guys and gals, why do you think they're covering so much? Not covering. Why do you think they're investing so much in water? Possibly because they know there's going to be a shortage soon. Possibly because there's suspicion that the next war could be over water. And by the way, when ABC, CNN, MSNBC have stalwarts of the progressive cause like Adam Schiff on, the lead Russiagate congressman, who I just covered yesterday, is now moving the goalposts. Now suddenly he's been saying all along, no, the main issue has been money laundering.